It was just a short little video for me to cut.
Oh.
What's up, fantasy fans? As always, I'm Shay from the channel Zachary Shay. And today I want to ask the question, are audiobooks reading? I'm just kidding. I'm so sick of that argument. I don't know if they're reading or not, but I have consumed these stories. I consider them reading. If you don't consider them reading, that's perfectly fine. But I wanted to talk about 5 narrators that I think... Oh, 6. I just thought of one. I want to talk about 6 narrators that I think do a phenomenal job at transporting you into the world. They're not just reading prose, that they are giving you a performance, and they are selling you on this world and on these characters. A lot of narrators, I'm talking about the best of their craft, can very much change the way you interact with the text. Sometimes, the prose, they do this in a positive way. Some narrators that miss the mark, they can do so in a negative way. Currently, I'm kind of working on my own audiobook thing for one of my favorite authors, and it's made me appreciate the craft even more. I don't really want to speak too much detail on the audiobook I'm doing, but that will be coming out at some point. But I want to talk about, number 6, and the one I almost forgot. So this narrator is kind of tied with number 5. I really don't know which one I prefer out of the two. One is very new to me, and that is Simon Preble. He did the narration for Master of Whitestorm. When I tell you, I was listening to this bad boy nonstop. I was actually messaging Janny, and I was like, Janny Wertz, the author of the novel, I was telling her, like, okay, I just started the Simon Preble book, and it had to have been like 48 hours later, and I was like, I'm done. I finished it. It's one of those books where as I was reading it, I was looking for chores to do around the house so I could get through more of this book. So number 6 / tied for 5th is Master of Whitestorm, Simon Preble. I believe he also did the Narnia books, but that's another reason he's so low. I've only listened to one of his narrations, but yeah, Simon Preble. All right, and next up is actually an author. He narrated his own book, and I don't think he's done this for many of his books, but he did it so well in this one, and I'm talking about Christopher Buehlman narrating The Black-Tongued Thief. I kind of wish he'd done The Daughter's War too, but the little bit I did listen to The Daughter's War, if you get the Black-Tongued Thief audiobook, you can listen at the end, and there will be some stuff from the narrator for the prequel. I kind of wish he'd done it, but I get why he didn't. I think he just did an amazing job at telling Kinch's story. I plan on reading the subsequent releases, the sequels, all through audio. I want Christopher Buehlman to both write it and read it to me. Triple threat, or I guess double threat. I don't know. Maybe if he does covers, he'd be a triple book threat. I don't know. But yeah, Christopher Buehlman for The Black-Tongued Thief. All right, and next up we have Spike from Buffy the Vampire Slayer, James Marsters, for his narration of the Dresden Files. I have never actually read a Dresden book, analog, physical, like turning the pages. I've only listened to them. James Marsters is Harry Blackstone Copperfield Dresden in my head. There will never be another, I think there's one Jim Butcher narrated short story called The Law. It's like a novella or something. I don't know if I could even have the author read it to me. That's how cemented James Marster is as Harry Blackstone Copperfield Dresden. Man, this is... In terms of a voice that embodies a particular character, this might be my absolute favorite from the list. I know it's at the number 4 spot, but the rest of these authors narrate quite a few books that I enjoy. I've only read the Dresden Files, but he narrates them so remarkably well. All right, and next up, and I just finished listening to this book on the way to get my nursing school uniforms. I knew I had a long drive to Katy, Texas, so I was like, all right, I'm going to jam this book. And then I started book 4 right after finishing it. I'm talking about Sun Eater by Christopher Rocchio. Samuel Rukin does such a phenomenal job of narrating these books. I actually found Samuel Rukin through a different book. It was The Lost Boy by Christina Henry. Did an amazing narration of Jamie, the real life accounting of Captain Hook. We follow the character of Jamie, who will become Captain Hook, and that story was immaculate. And then I was like, okay, what else has he narrated found Sun Eater. That's probably the most roundabout way anyone's ever found Sun Eater. It's like one of the biggest series right now, and I found it because I loved The Lost Boy, and I found out Samuel. I mean, I already owned these. I knew I was going to read them, but I gravitated towards the audiobooks because I was so impressed by The Lost Boy. So Samuel Rukin is my third favorite audiobook narrator of all time, and that's having only read Lost Boy and Sun Eater, but he is the voice of Jamie, and he is the voice of Hadrian Alexander Marlowe, and I'll probably make a video on it soon. Spoiler alert, Hadrian Marlowe is quickly becoming one of my favorite protagonists in fiction, full stop. All right, and when you get to these top two, this is where it gets hard, because my number 2 pick is probably the narrator that I'm most hyped about. Anytime this person is narrating a book, I'm automatically reading it on audio. They're probably my favorite audiobook narrator, but number 1 narrated a series that got me into audiobooks. So I don't know, 2 and 1 may swap, I don't know. But I'm talking about Moira Quirk for number 2. Anytime I see Moira Quirk's name on a book, I am getting it. I first came to her whenever reading the Locked Tomb series. Gideon the Ninth, but Harrow the Ninth blew my socks off. And not just in the writing department, but in the narration department. Moira Quirk almost gives a different voice to every single character, and they all shine through. Sometimes her narration can be quirky, sometimes it can be serious, sometimes it can be comedic. She is able to get the whole gamut of emotions, and she is so immensely talented. I know that if I ever had a book that was getting option for audio, my number 1 pick would be Moira Quirk. She's also narrated the War Eternal series by Rob J. Hayes, and she's also done Blood Over Brighthaven, which I haven't read yet, but I will be listening to by Moira Quirk. And the audiobook narrator that got me into audiobooks, Tim Gerard Reynolds. He's narrated the Five Warrior Angels trilogy by Brian Lee Durfee. That's one of his bests. But my favorite narration by him is the Red Rising Saga by Pierce Brown. Now, books 4 and 5, Pierce Brown brought in a ton of other actors to play different characters within the world. I believe in book 5, Mustang is voiced by Moira Quirk, actually, and she did amazing. The guy who voiced Ephraim did amazing. Some of the other audiobook narrators kind of didn't really hit the character voices in the way that I think Tim did. So in Lightbringer, it was just full on Tim again. And man, Tim Gerard Reynolds is the voice of Darrow. He does it so well. These books are amazing, and he made me actually get through the Red Queen's War, which was not my favorite Mark Lawrence trilogy. I really loved the Broken Empire trilogy. So Prince Jalan kind of fell flat for me a little bit after Jorg. He felt like a very stagnant character. But Tim Gerard Reynolds' narration was my favorite aspect of reading that trilogy. So those are 6 audiobook narrators that I think deserve all the love. And if you're not super into audiobooks, I recommend trying those out. Do have an honorable mention. I thought of him right as I was closing out this video. Jeff Hayes for the Dungeon Crawler Carl series. The only reason he's an honorable mention is because I've only read Dungeon Crawler Carl and I was very impressed, but I think I need to read a little bit more before I recommend him on this list. But let me know which narrators I missed. I've heard The Wandering Inn has a good one. I've heard, Stephen Pacey. I've heard he's amazing. Maybe I'll give The Devils a listen. Let me know down below which narrators I need to check out. Peace, guys.